Thank you for being with us today. We're going to wait just a few minutes for everyone to join, and then we'll get started very soon. And in the meantime, my colleague, Dalmis Sanchez, has an important announcement about how you can access today's event in Spanish.
Bienvenidos a Deal. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy. Estamos esperando unos minutos para que la gente se pueda conectar y comenzaremos pronto. Para escuchar el evento en español, presione el icono con el globo mundial que dice Interpretation y luego presione Spanish. Si solo quiere escuchar la presentación en español, escuchar el audio original, entonces presione Mute Original Audio. Si tiene preguntas durante el evento, colóquelas en el espacio para preguntas y respuestas. Estamos monitoreando las preguntas y respondiendo en la medida de lo posible. Que lo disfruten.
Good morning. Welcome to Disability Rights Tennessee's 7th annual Disability Employment Awareness Luncheon and our very first virtual luncheon. I am Lisa Prim, the very proud Executive Director of Disability Rights Tennessee, and I am so grateful to have all of you joining us on Zoom for today's event. Also, I am looking at the results of our poll, and thank you for participating. It looks like you feel a lot like I do. You are committed to disability employment, and you are excited to learn more about how to do it well in your organization. So you are in the right place. And just so you know, our chat feature will be disabled throughout this event. However, the question and answer feature is enabled. So please feel free to post your questions there, where our fabulous communications team, Kelsey, Lynette, and Dalmis, will respond to you. So one of the perks of a virtual event is that we are able to welcome DEAL attendees from across the state, from Memphis to Johnson City, in between, and we even have some folks joining us today from out of state. Some of us may be enjoying the perk of wearing our cozy pajamas, and that is one of my favorite perks. But these perks, like everything this year, do have a flip side, And the flip side for me is that I really miss getting to see all of you in person. I can't see any of you actually, and I can't hear you either. So I will not know if any of my jokes get a laugh, which may actually be a good thing. And jokes aside, employment for people with disabilities during the pandemic has similarly been very two-sided and very complex. So for some people, the accommodations that they've been denied for years, like working from home and more flexible hours, have suddenly become the norm. But for others in our community, the already high rates of unemployment and underemployment have actually become exaggerated. And this is such a loss for everyone, because when businesses have inclusive employment practices, they're able to maximize their workforce. And when people with disabilities are employed, we know that they actively engage in their communities and they thrive. In fact, at DRT, we find that the more we diversify our workforce, the more creative and innovative and productive we all become. So I can't wait to share with you our speakers, insights, and tools so that we can all grow together today. But before I get on with the agenda, I would like to pay tribute to all of the sponsors and partners who make this event possible. We are incredibly grateful to both the Tennessee Department of Education and the Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. These key partners are essential to so many Tennesseans as they go on their path to employment, from receiving inclusive public education services from the Department of Ed to all of the supports and services provided by the Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Similarly, we could not make this event happen without our advocate level sponsors. They are AmeriGroup, the Tennessee Department of Human Services, Vocational Rehabilitation Services, United Healthcare, and We Go Public Transit. Also, our friend level sponsors, Ernst & Young, First Horizon Foundation, Group Benefits Systems, the Mental Health Cooperative, St. John's Community Services, the Council on Developmental Disabilities, the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, and the Tennessee Disability Coalition. And of course, we are grateful to our table hosts, Cherry Beckert, Dell Technologies, the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation, Nashville Electric Service, Vanderbilt Health, and Vista Points. This event cannot happen without all of you, and the contributions that you have made will allow our agency to improve and increase our services in the pursuit of justice for our clients. I also want to thank our entire board of directors, our advisory council, and most especially my colleagues from DRT, who have navigated some really tremendous challenges this past year, all while continuing to protect the rights of Tennesseans with disabilities every day. So thank you all. Okay, first up today is a presentation from an extraordinary researcher, teacher, and leader, Dr. Ariel Ellis. Dr. Ellis is a Memphis native. She is a graduate of Tennessee State University, of Middle Tennessee State University, and of the University of Southern California. She's the managing principal of Advisory 83, a company which helps organizations transform their culture, improve diversity, navigate change, build community, and drive innovation. And DRT was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Ellis this past year in enhancing our own internal equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts. She's also an instructor at Lipscomb University. She's a gifted strategist and an excellent storyteller. And we are thrilled that even though she is out of the country today, Ariel was able to record a video, which we will now share with you today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ariel Ellis, Managing Principal of Advisory 83. And I am delighted to spend a moment with you just to share a bit of inspiration in support of the Disability Employment Awareness Luncheon. I'd like for you to take a moment just to imagine a workplace filled with talented individuals from all walks of life, various backgrounds, experiences, education, thoughts, perspectives, and abilities, all working together collaboratively and collectively to advance the mission of the organization. Now, organizational cultures like the one I just had you imagine are becoming increasingly common, not just because of the times that we're in, but because they yield great benefits, such as low turnover, greater productivity, and overall growth. As diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now accessibility become important pillars inside of healthy organizations, the question becomes, how can we harness more opportunities to integrate this work and this practice into our organizational culture? Leading diversity, inclusion, and equity as it relates to change in the workplace culture is going to take constant effort and constant investment. It requires ongoing learning with experiences and interactions, and it also requires an understanding of self, an awareness of your biases, and an acknowledgement of behaviors, the ones that may hinder possibilities, limit the share of power, and fracture progress. It is important that organizations create cultures where employees can not only thrive, but also experience trust, transparency, and psychological safety. One where they feel that if they speak up, they will be heard. One where they feel that if they have a concern, it will be respected. One where they feel that if they make an assessment, it will be approved upon. And one where they feel that if they are the only, they won't be singled out. And instead, they'll be valued for their cultural capital. Because we are not one-dimensional beings. We bring so much more than just talents and skills to the professional environment. Through both acquired and inherent diversity, we bring insights from our race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, our nationality, our religion, our ability, our generation, but the intersectionality should be highlighted even more when we bring our life experiences, such as military service or exposure to travel, technical smarts, speaking second or third languages, and much, much more. So today, I'd like for you to take a close examination of what real commitments have you made to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ask yourself, are you ready and willing to make diversity, equity, inclusion a priority inside of your organization? Are you ready and willing to shift the norm and assess your behaviors? Are you open to taking an honest look at what processes might be potentially harmful inside of your organizations and determine what voices might be muted or ignored? Are you prepared to make sure that your organization is serving the greatest diversity of people with an intercultural approach? Are you ready to address and acknowledge the intersections of race and disability in an authentic way? If so, you're on the right track. If you're not sure, or if the answer is no, then it's time to make a commitment. Listen, every organization should be building a workplace that is inclusive, one that includes everyone. And there is no better time than now. I hope that as you are thinking about this, as you are considering what improvements you need to make, as you are considering what strategies, tactics, programs, policies, procedures you need to assess, that you are committing to making the investment, whatever that investment is, an investment of time, talent, financial resources, whatever it takes to ensure that you are serving the greatest diversity of people and that you are harnessing the talent of the greatest diversity of people inside of your organization. The work is going to require real intentional investment. If you want to empower people and you want to empower people to empower the world, then it starts with providing safe, accessible, and intentional environments inside of your organization. You have to make that proper investment. And you also have to make the assessments that it takes to know how to shift your culture. You have to be dedicated to fostering an inclusive and equitable workplace for people with visible and non-visible disabilities. I hope that your time today at this experience, at this luncheon, has been fruitful. I hope that you are reconnecting and recommitting what it means to ensure that you are serving the greatest diversity of people, which also includes, of course, those with visible and non-visible disabilities. I hope that you are shifting the norm inside of your organization so that you can share that accountability and that responsibility inside of your organizations. And I hope that you are creating cultures that are inclusive, where people feel like they can be heard and seen and valued. Please continue to support one another. I know that we are in interesting times, but please continue to support one another. Support your colleagues, reach out, do the self-care you need to do in order to be effective and grow inside of your organizations. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your attention. And I wish you all the best.
We are so grateful to Dr. Ellis for sharing her wisdom. I'm a huge fan. She reminds us that diversity and inclusion enhance all organizations and that every step we take creates a more equitable and successful workplace. And so next up, I am very honored to introduce our keynote speaker, Ernie Dianastasis. Ernie is the founder and CEO of the Precisionists, Inc., or TPI. That is a global administrative services and information technology company, which is focused on employing 10,000 people with disabilities by the year 2025. Creating meaningful careers for people with disabilities while at the same time delivering world-class service to customers is a true passion for Ernie. We are very lucky here in Tennessee to have him partner with regional programs like the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation to expand inclusive employment in our state. Back home in his home state of Delaware, Ernie is also chairman of First State Innovation, which is a private sector-led nonprofit initiative that fosters a more entrepreneurial environment in Delaware. He also serves on several nonprofit boards, including the Easter Seals of Delaware and Special Listern USA, which is a global nonprofit firm focused on employing over 1 million people on the autism spectrum in technology jobs. We're very excited to share Ernie's pre-recorded remarks first, and then we will have him join us live afterwards for a question and answer session.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Ernie Dianastasis, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Precisionists, and it is a real honor to be here. I know the Disability Employment Annual Luncheon or Deal is a time-honored tradition for the Tennessee community, and I am excited to share my story with you all. By the way, as a Yankee, that's the last time I will attempt to use the term you all. I just can't do it justice. I know what an important role Disability Rights Tennessee plays in your community, and I was very touched when Lisa Prim and Kelsey Lotchke asked me to be on this year's keynote speaker. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get into it. I first got into this in 2013 when the, at the time, governor of Delaware, Jack Markell, called me out of the blue with a proposition. Now, first, a little background. I'm not trying to brag telling you that a sitting governor is calling me with a proposition. Delaware is a very small place. In fact, the city of Nashville has more people than the entire state of Delaware. Like Nashville, it's also a very friendly place. Over time, you get to know a lot of people, even the governor. At the time, I was running a large IT services organization that performed large, complex IT projects for organizations like the state of Delaware, the DuPont Company, and others. And Delaware's so small that you actually run into the governor at the grocery store one day and see him at a community event the next. So the reason he called was to tell me he had been selected as the new head of the National Governors Association, or NGA, as it is often called. It's a real honor because you're selected by the other 49 governors. And now, other than having more work to do when you're serving this one-year term, the one perk that you do have is that you get to pick the platform that all 50 governors are going to work on for a year. And to his credit, Governor Markell picked employing people with disabilities for a better bottom line. This was very forward thinking in 2013. Also, what made his platform even more powerful was the back half of that platform statement, a better bottom line. You see, he believed that if you can focus on the abilities of neurodiverse individuals rather than on their challenges, that they have tremendous value to add to any organization. This was very innovative and forward thinking back in 2013. As Governor Markell was telling me this, he also said he wanted to walk the talk in his home state of Delaware. That's where I came into the picture. He knew I was running a large IT services company with over 1,000 software developers. He said he had an idea. He read a story in the New York Times about a gentleman from Copenhagen, Denmark, who had developed some innovative models for autistic adults. And when this guy from Denmark, whose name is Torkild Sanne, found out in 2005 that his own 3-year-old son, Lars, was on the autism spectrum, he decided to do something about it. You see, what went through his mind is the same thing that goes through every parent's mind when they find out their child has a disability. How's my child going to live a life with independence and dignity when I'm gone? That's what goes through every parent's head. So he decided to do something about it. In 2005, he quit his job and started a new company, a nonprofit called Specialisterna, with the goal of finding ways to create successful work outcomes for individuals on the autism spectrum. Over the next 7 to 8 years, he developed some innovative methods and was being successful. The New York Times learned of this and wrote his story in 2013. When Governor Markell from Delaware read this in the New York Times, he called Mr. Sanne in Denmark and invited him to come to Delaware to share his learnings. The governor called me to invite me to come to this meeting and meet this gentleman from Denmark to see if there'd be any synergy with my IT firm. So I went to this meeting, not sure what to expect. And once I was there and listened to him, I was so impressed with what he was doing that a month later, I jumped on a plane and went to Copenhagen to see it firsthand. I really wanted to validate what he was saying and really get into the details and understand it better. The innovations he launched were very real, and my trip there provided that validation. 6 months later, Torkild Sanne, his wife, and their autistic son, Lars, moved to Delaware, and he launched a U.S. subsidiary nonprofit. And I immediately invited him into my IT services company to try some of these concepts. Within a year, we created over 40 new jobs for neurodiverse associates, working side by side with our neurotypical workforce. And together, they were doing software testing and software development. I tracked their performance very carefully for over a year. What do you think I found back in 2014, 2015? The performance was off the chart. Attention to detail, accuracy, productivity, pattern recognition, and yes, precision. What I had also found out that the loyalty factor, commitment, and just being plain grateful to have a job were also outstanding. That's when the light bulb went off for me. I realized that I didn't want to just do this as a side project at a large IT services firm. What I realized is I wanted to do this 24/7 and ultimately create over 10,000 jobs for talented neurodiverse people over the next 5 to 10 years. That is why I decided to launch The Precisionists in 2016. I sold my ownership in the other company and used the proceeds to self-fund this new company. The Precisionists, or TPI as we are often called, is a national IT and business services firm headquartered in Wilmington, Delaware. Our driving mission is to create over 10,000 jobs for people with developmental disabilities like autism over the next 5 to 10 years. Our business model is simple, yet innovative and powerful. We will accomplish our goals by focusing on 2 important journeys. One for the neurodiverse people that are looking for a chance to launch a career. And the second journey is the one for our clients that we perform IT and business services for. This model is sustainable because it is based on performance and not charity. This is the most important point I will be making with you today. So I'm going to say it again. This model is sustainable because it is based on performance and not charity. If properly prepared, neurodiverse individuals are high performers. There's a reason that this group from ages 18 to 65, and that's the hiring group, the age group that we hire, has been over 80% under or unemployed for the last 100 years. They have not typically been able to get through the first 5 minutes of a traditional HR interview. You see, this isn't a group that makes small talk easily or looks you in the eye. They may fidget or appear nervous. All interview killers in corporate America. However, these attributes have zero, I'll repeat, zero bearing on someone's ability to develop or test software, perform data analysis, do cybersecurity work, or even data entry work. As I stated before, this population is extraordinary at attention to detail, pattern recognition, accuracy, productivity, and precision. They also tend to be fiercely loyal and have a great work ethic. We have to force our associates to go home when they're sick. Can you imagine that? They want to work their craft every day and are darn proud of it. They simply need to be put on a journey to become workplace ready. When we identify potential future TPIers, we put them through a 4-week assessment and training program, which not only gives them the technical skills for the specific jobs we're hiring for, but we also teach them how to work on teams, how to make presentations, Microsoft Office skills, email etiquette, personal hygiene, and other professional skills they never had a chance to learn. The second key journey that is happening in parallel is the journey we are helping our clients with. We prepare their culture and work environment so that these terrific neurodiverse individuals can be successful. We perform a wide range of projects which range from simple data entry to the most complex IT projects and everything in between. We have led the largest pharmaceutical company in the country, Pfizer, on this journey. Also, the largest power utility company, energy company in the country, Exelon, is a wonderful partner. We started there with 1 pilot project doing data analysis, and we are now doing 16 projects across 6 major utilities and operating divisions and have over 40 people from our neurodiverse individuals building great careers in their environment. They have embraced the program enterprise-wide. One of our most treasured partnerships is right here in Nashville with the iconic global bank, UBS. We started this journey with them almost 3 years ago, and thanks to UBS trailblazers like Wanda Lyle, Kent Kirby, Katie Williams, Julian Fry, Shauna Purdue, and their colleagues, We have neurodiverse TPIers supporting critical UBS cybersecurity functions such as email surveillance and anti-money laundering. UBS has been a terrific partner from day one. Together with UBS and TPI, we have also worked in close collaboration with Vanderbilt University and their Frisch Center for Autism and Innovation, led by Kayvon Stassen and Dave Cottle. We are also in close collaboration with Billy and Jennifer Frisch, who have been true leaders in the neurodiverse movement in Tennessee and also nationally. I am proud that Jennifer Frisch is a member of TPI's advisory board, and she adds tremendous value to our efforts. We are also proud to work with Autism Tennessee, the State of Tennessee Vocational Rehabilitation Department, and many other great organizations, including Disability Rights Tennessee. I also want to mention Assurion, Tractor Supply, and HCA, who have also been on this neurodiverse journey with us in Middle Tennessee. In just 4.5 years, TPI has established a presence in multiple markets across the US, and we have established several innovation and technology centers. We call them ITCs. Even during COVID, TPI grew by over 30% in 2020. I want to close with a short story that I believe summarizes what this is all about. We have a young man in his mid-30s working in our Phoenix, Arizona Innovation and Technology Center. Before joining TPI, he had been under or unemployed his entire adult life. He did not drive a car or have his license. He lived with his parents, and his entire social life was spent in his parents' basement playing video games, and he had no friends to do anything with. Now, after 18 months on the State of Arizona account as a TPI data analyst, he is building a professional career with TPI and the State of Arizona. He is, with increased confidence, he's went and gotten his driver's license and now drives to work. He has just gotten his own apartment and is living independently. And he has built, though this is pre-COVID and post-COVID, he's built a circle of friends and also that are also signed at the State of Arizona account. And they go out for pizza nights, bowling nights, movie nights, but finally social connection and a sense of belonging in the community. This is the incredible power of employment in a professional yet nurturing setting with TPI and their clients in partnership, creating an environment for successful life outcomes. This is what it's all about. The most successful companies of the future, like UBS, will be those which harness both neurodiverse and neurotypical talent working together in a fully inclusive and integrated environment. TPI is proud to be a leader in this movement. And again, it's been an absolute pleasure having the chance to speak with all of you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ernie. I really appreciate those pre-recorded remarks. And I know that our attendees have learned a lot from you already, but we have even more questions and we are live. We can actually talk to each other now. So, I'm sorry?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
Good to
Ernie.
see you.
This is great. So I'm going to ask you a few questions that we have. You shared that your company, TPI, actually helps businesses to create more inclusive workforces. So you have some business leaders and some organizations who are listening today. And I'm wondering if you could share with them how TPI could actually help their company to get started in creating a more inclusive workforce.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. The first step is just to have an initial discussion. It's what we try to do when we talk to a new company that's interested in this is just understand their goals on diversity and inclusion, and also if there a specific or special passion around neurodiversity employment. And we'll also walk through how our model works in detail in terms of how we get the candidates ready for employment and how we get the company ready to create an environment for successful outcomes and how we bring all that together. And that discussion naturally typically leads to companies thinking about possible pilot projects that may be a great way to get started. We look at those in detail, kind of lay out a whole set of plans together. And then the most important thing is to launch a successful first pilot that creates great outcomes. And then once that happens, and as it has happened in the companies that we've been working with, then it really takes off from there. Other folks in the companies start to get very excited about it. They hear about it. They start raising their hand and saying, how can we participate? How can we get involved in this as well? It's very contagious once it gets started.
That's great. I expect you may hear from some of our audience members for some assistance with this. I know we have our event and people are fired up, and then it's sort of like, what's next? So this is one option of what's next. They could actually reach out to TPI. You talked also about creating the diverse workforce and the training for people with disabilities, but you talked about training the businesses who employ them. And I think that's really important. So I wondered if you could share maybe just one easy thing that a business can do to better prepare themselves to have a more inclusive workforce.
I think the first step is awareness and education, because you're going to have individuals, I'm sure many are at this meeting today, who have a personal connection to neurodiversity or to autism, and it's those that have a day-to-day, impact in their lives with it are very knowledgeable about it. But then there are others who their only exposure to autism is that they saw Rain Man 20 years ago with Dustin Hoffman. And then you have everybody in between, individuals that have a neighbor, a friend, that have a direct connection. So it's important to bring everybody along on the journey. And that can only happen through awareness and education. The good news is there's tremendous amount of material out there, articles, blogs, events like today is a great step. But it's initially the simplest and the best way to get started is to get the organization into the awareness and education component.
Great, I appreciate that. And that makes me think too about the interview process. I know that the interview process can be specifically very challenging for people with disabilities. So I'm wondering about what businesses, my business, your business, others' business, what can we all do to make the interview process more inclusive and that experience more inclusive so that we don't miss out on really great candidates?
Great. That's a great question. I've talked about it in my speech that 5 minute, that interview, traditional HR interview has been such a stumbling block for so many years for individuals with that are neurodiverse or have developmental disabilities. I would encourage organizations to rethink the HR interview, put less focus on body language and polish, and more focus on a person's unique strengths that they could bring to your company. Try to understand those strengths, and there's a lot of ways to do that in that whole process of talent acquisition and looking at talent. But focus on, for example, instead of their polish or how they interact, more so attention to detail. How are they at pattern recognition? There's all kinds of exercises and ways to glean that from a meeting with someone. And then you begin to get insight into the value they can add in your organization.
I think that's so incredibly helpful. Thank you. Okay, you shared a lot of connections that you've had with other people and businesses. We heard a lot of names of other companies that really helped you to develop the Precisionist Inc. So I guess my question is, would you say that collaboration and those partnerships are really invaluable to businesses when they begin to try to create a more inclusive workforce?
Absolutely, Lisa. I mean, why reinvent the wheel? There's great partners can help you fast track to your goals, and for example, we do this, TPI does this 24/7. And, we've worked with a lot of other great companies out there that have already done this journey with us. And we've learned what works well. We've also learned what not to do just through experience since 2013, 2014. So why not leverage that knowledge? And, I also like to always highlight Vanderbilt University. and the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation, they're out there doing tremendous research and in terms of creating successful employment outcomes. And we have a feedback loop with them so that as we're getting work outcomes and understanding these things, they're going back into their model, and they're constantly creating new approaches and new techniques and new technologies that are also going to help the employment outcomes. So that's just one example of many of how the collaboration and the partnerships can help any organization get there faster.
Great, thank you. So I have a last question. You made it really clear that expanding diversity and inclusion in the workplace is really beneficial to the success of the business. And you said that it's not as hard as we might think. So for those who are here today listening, what are some super simple changes that any business could make to make themselves a more welcoming workplace for people with disabilities?
Well, I think, one I touched on already is educating the workforce on autism, on neurodiversity. That's a very important one. Then you can get into lots of, what I'll call minor things, but they all add value. I think the topic I'm really referring to is accessibility and accommodation in organizations. So there are lots of things that can be done around ergonomics, technology, furniture, lighting accommodations, and just even signage, basic signage that we take for granted that, to go to this part of the company or this department, you just do this. But signage can be so important in taking what would normally be a very stressful event for someone and just taking a lot of that stress out of the equation. So accommodation and accessibility. And a lot of organizations, larger organizations especially, they can afford it, but even other ones have been getting help in addressing accommodation and accessibility, bringing in specialists that can help with that and creating an environment. The last thing I would add is even open up a dialogue through the diversity and inclusion or HR part of the organization with the entire workforce with an open, blog and email communication structure so that any employee or any associate can just freely ask a question or ask for support in how to work with individuals that are neurodiverse or what can be done to make their environment better. That open collaboration and for employees to know that they don't have to hesitate to ask a question about something that is just they don't know or they're concerned about or they just are curious, that open collaboration is really important.
Those are all really great suggestions. I am so grateful to you, Ernie, for sharing your insights and all of these really specific tools. I know that the folks here will take this information back to their offices or maybe their living rooms or wherever work is happening in this transforming environment. But I'm really grateful to you and I hope you'll stay with us. I think you may see some familiar faces in the next segment. And thank you very much for all of your remarks.
Lisa, it was an honor to be here. Thank you. And thanks for all the great work Disability Rights Tennessee does in the great state of Tennessee. So thank you.
Thanks, Ernie. Okay, everybody. So in preparation for this year's virtual event, my colleagues and I spoke with a tremendous number of incredible employees who have disabilities and also their employers who are committed to inclusive employment. We always want to hear from the experts about the why and the how of inclusive employment. And we want to share that with you. So I'll tell you, we got more than 4 hours of incredible content, which I'm going to play now. Just kidding. I would love to share every minute of those 4 hours with you. Of course, we are all on a time crunch these days. So instead, we have compiled the highlights of those conversations into one video. And I hope you will learn as much from these individuals as I did.
Hiring people with disabilities is a sustainable business solution that results in better business outcomes. Businesses with inclusive employment practices benefit from a larger pool of talent, more creative staff, lower turnover, and higher profits than competitors who do not.
Just because a person has a disability doesn't mean that they can't contribute meaningfully to the team, and they can bring maybe a special set of skills that nobody else has.
A number of companies are finding that when they hire individuals with autism into the right jobs, they often are able to solve what have been persistent problems with staff turnover. But there's also maybe a more intangible benefit to workplace culture that can nonetheless be very, very important. In addition to high performance on work tasks, they've also begun to see real benefits on workplace culture. The neurotypical employees talking about how great it feels to work for a company that so values diversity and inclusion that they can see some of their own loved ones, some of their own children on the autism spectrum, or a niece or nephew on the autism spectrum, or an uncle on the autism spectrum. They can see those loved ones having a place at this company that they work for, and that increases their sense of loyalty and commitment to the company. Those can be some of the most important ways to support your workforce and to activate their energy and their commitment to allow them to really bring the best of themselves to the work.
When businesses are ready to start diversifying their workforce, where should they start?
Honestly, ask yourself as a company, as a leadership team, why do we want to do this? And it's the simplest thing in the world to ask yourself that question, but answering it honestly can be the hardest thing. But it's very, very important because, frankly, if the reason for why is primarily or entirely around charity, around, trying to do something nice for somebody, trying to give somebody a chance that might not have a chance, those are all nice sentiments, but that's not sustainable. Right? I mean, in order for these things to be successful, they have to be sustainable and they have to be driven by a real business imperative. Once you recognize that there's a real business imperative and value to the business in terms of connecting with a larger customer base, in terms of making the work of your company more innovative by virtue of bringing in more diverse voices and teams, all these different reasons, all these real legitimate business imperative reasons, if that's what's driving it, then figuring out how to do it becomes a lot simpler.
After leaving high school, life is just beginning for people with disabilities. Engaging in experiences like post-secondary programs, vocational rehabilitation, and employment internships allows people to move into lifelong careers.
You want to get into a position that you enjoy and earn enough money to kind of provide for yourself as well, just kind of grow in the world, I guess.
So vocational rehab had helped me with actual pharmacy school. The Johnson City, Tennessee office is who I was corresponding with, and they are so great. It's like an extended family, but they helped me with tuition, technology, transportation.
The reason I wanted to work was because I wanted to use that education. I've worked so hard to get that education. I put money into it. And I wanted to train myself to be productive and, add some meaning to my life. Learning all about website development, learning about JavaScript, C#, .NET, all those things to make a website. But Chris Center was what taught me communication, practicing teamwork, using tools to communicate with people, especially in a remote location.
The experience right now for an autistic individual in the United States is one where there is an enormous amount of great support, interventions, therapies, starting from increasingly when individuals may be as young as 2 years old, say, all the way through K through 12 schooling and right up to adulthood. But then there's this sudden disappearance, largely, of appropriate supports, just as individuals are getting ready to transition to adulthood independence, and specifically into the world of work. And so the First Center for Autism Innovation was started with the idea that we could really have an impact in this sort of niche area where we have every year in the United States 70,000 autistic children who become autistic adults and face this staggering hurdle with respect to employment. Something like 80 to 85% of autistic adults are either unemployed or underemployed relative to their ability level. So we wanted to bring the power of engineering. We invent assistive devices and technologies together with the power of the market and entrepreneurship and commercialization to bring these technologies to market in order to reach as many autistic adults as possible. And we collaborate with major companies as well to ensure that what we're doing is of relevance to them and of help to them as employers to better identify and recruit and support neurodivergent people.
Job readiness programs like the Frisch Center for Autism and Innovation don't just help prepare people with disabilities for employment, they also support businesses in creating more inclusive workplaces.
Oftentimes, companies, corporations will hire a third-party entity to help them do, headhunting, to help them, source talent. There are finder's fees that sometimes companies will pay just to make sure they get the right people in the right job. Working with employment readiness programs, companies like the Precisionists that help to identify talented individuals, help to assess their talents and abilities and match them for the right jobs, help to prepare them for a transition into the job. It's almost like a more holistic form of scouting for talent. You need to have the right scouts to find the right talent. In this case, you also need to have the right scouts who can help support those individuals to make the transition successfully into the job. The Frisch Center for Autism and Innovation works with businesses in a couple of different ways directly. We've developed a virtual reality and natural language processing based job interview coaching system that basically has two purposes. One is for individuals on the autism spectrum to practice for that all-important job interview, to get some coaching in that all-important process of going after a job. But it also serves for companies and for hiring managers, for HR professionals, say, to get a feeling, a real feeling for what it's like for people on the other side, and how some of the standard ways of conducting job interviews can really disadvantage certain individuals who may very well be the same people that you're trying so desperately to recruit because they have the talent that you're looking for.
When people with disabilities are supported in the workplace, they excel, and businesses reap the benefits. Often the supports or accommodations employees with disabilities need are simple, inexpensive, and benefit employees without disabilities too.
We're all struggling with something, and just because my disability shows on the outside doesn't mean somebody else has a disability that they're fighting with on the inside. And we're all human.
I guarantee you, every company has individuals on the autism spectrum already among their employees. They might not know it. It's still the case that many people with autism feel like it's not quite safe for them to reveal their disability, which is a shame, because if they did, very often they might find that their employers are in fact receptive to learning what are some of the little simple accommodations that they might be able to provide that would allow that already valued employee to bring the best of themselves even more fully and more successfully.
Having an open line of communication is key, and understanding that everybody who has a disability is not the same. We can't fit into a one-size-fits-all category, and flexibility is huge.
I had one-on-one meetings with my manager on what I could be comfortable with, or what I'm distressed by, or what exactly would stop me from being comfortable to do my work, or struggling to do my work. So we keep a constant open line of communication, so that way I am in that mindset in order to concentrate and to do the best I can.
Each week I have a one-on-one meeting with my manager to kind of catch up, go over what I've done this week, ask her questions, and get advice for things that I might not completely understand. And it's usually a very relaxed environment. It's something that makes it easier for me to communicate with her, and something I can't get in a larger group.
What they give is timely feedback for the work I've done. They're honest, they're direct. They tell me, they compliment the work I do, and they give constructive feedback on what I need to do to work on it. And I think that type of communication is vital, because I know they're genuinely helping me through the tougher times and helping assist me when I need it. And that in turn helps me learn and grow in their firm.
To have that all-inclusive environment, just the awareness is key, in my opinion. I firmly believe that what I bring to the table can really impact the healthcare field. And just because my legs don't work doesn't mean that my brain can't.
Overall, they've done their research on what makes individuals with the autism spectrum. I don't think that they are able to get it 100%, but it's enough to know, how certain situations work better or worse with an individual, and they do their best, and that's enough, and that is enough.
The benefits are clear. When businesses support their employees with disabilities through simple accommodations, they thrive and bring new strengths to the workplace. And businesses thrive too.
All of that impact on individuals kind of comes along for the ride if you simply make the commitment to identify talented individuals, recruit and hire them and support them for the benefit of your bottom line. You don't have to think about all those benefits to the individuals. All those benefits to individuals, which of course we care greatly about, those benefits come along for the ride.
Me now in my position with Aspen RX, I'm able to breathe in between each patient encounter. And if I need to use the restroom, I can take my time and not feel stressed that, oh my gosh, if I'm not back on the computer in 15 minutes, I'm going to get dinged because I'm out of adherence. And it's just like a breath of fresh air.
I like the people. Like, not only do I really like my manager, as she is very supportive and understanding. I like the job coach, and I also love working with coworkers that are in the same boat as I am, because the NCOE is all about neurodiversity. So it's very interesting to see people that may or may not be on the spectrum that have similar walks of life like I do.
That's one thing I like working when I do, and I can get really focused in on it and just keep going. I definitely feel like the project we were working on was something I've been able to, for the first time in my life, to be able to contribute a little bit, something that's going to make the world a little better, and something that I can say and hey, I did that.
So isn't that what we all want? What Caleb said? To contribute, right? And each of us here can be a leader in this. We truly have the power to implement business strategies that will increase our impact and at the same time, change our culture. As organizations and businesses, we can actually do better work for our clients just by diversifying our workforces. And as you've heard, it is so easy, we can start today. So I am incredibly grateful to all of you for being here today. I also want to thank all of our speakers for sharing their knowledge and their passion with us. I know that I learned some things, and I felt inspired to take action today, and I hope that you did too. I do apologize profusely that you missed out on the chicken and rice part of the luncheon this year. And my most fervent wish is that we will all be eating conference food together in 2022. We will be sharing this video recording in a follow-up email, and I hope that you will find it helpful to share it with your colleagues and revisit it as you all develop your plans to expand inclusive employment and maximize your workforces. I also have a big announcement. We are going to keep this momentum going. In October, as we will all be celebrating Disability Employment Awareness Month, DRT will be hosting another free webinar to dig even deeper and to continue to promote the real business solutions found in disability employment for all kinds of disabilities, physical, developmental, intellectual, mental health issues in all kinds of work settings. And we really hope that you will join us and that you will share this with others and ask them to join us as well. I thank you for participating today, for joining us in the pursuit of the most diverse and inclusive workforces ever. Thank you and have a great afternoon.